and welcome to the Big Picture podcast. I'm your host, Anna Barkiewicz. Before I bring out today's panel, let me just remind you can find us on all the socials @_ the Big Picture. Now it's time to introduce our panel in a slightly different way, with the first and possibly last, depending how this goes, edition of Adam's Weekly Roundup. So I'm going to introduce each member of the panel. I'm going to tell them an entertainment news story from the last week, and I just want to hear their thoughts on it. You know, we talk about entertainment stuff on this podcast all the time. Why not get some stuff that's hot off the press? So let's welcome the first panel member, Jack Graham. Jack, how are you, and what are your thoughts on the Cruella trailer and the film in general?
I'm very, very well, thank you. I'm looking forward to this. I think the Cruella trailer is absolutely amazing. I was very surprised how it turned out. Like, it's kind of been a bit dark. I think Emma Stone's going to have a very good portrayal of the character. And yes, it's a movie that there's not been many movies. Obviously, with COVID, I've been releasing a lot of it on like streaming websites, but there's not been a lot that's been like, oh, I want to watch that. This is probably the first movie in a while that I'm like, I want to watch this when it's made available to us.
Yeah, something you would like to see in the cinema if the opportunity arises, though we don't know if that would be the case.
I'd go see it in the cinema if given the opportunity to. Yes.
Yes, nice, good. Next up, Stuart Fitzgerald. Stuart, what do you think of the announcement that Marvel will be launching a making of series on Disney Plus, starting with WandaVision?
Hi Adam, thank you. I'm doing well. Hope you are as well. Yeah, I'm quite excited. WandaVision, which might be something that we are covering as a podcast later, you know, not promising anything.
Secrets now.
But yeah, I'm really excited for this. This show I have a lot to say about, and I'm really interested in how they've made it, because you can tell a lot of thought and a lot of production has gone into this show. It's certainly something very different, so I want to know how they made it. And I don't like Cruella.
Right, well, I mean, didn't ask, but I like invite you in. I respect that. Yeah, I think that I agree with you. Like a lot of things Disney make there's a lot of parts and a lot of moving pieces, as they say. So I think we'll be interested to see how it all comes together and how it all works behind the scenes. Thanks for that, Stuart. And our penultimate panel member is Lewis Jameson. Lewis, how do you feel about The Rock's announcement that he would run for president if the people wanted it? And do you want it?
Hi, Adam. Thanks for that. To be honest, the man is known as the people's champion. And I would love to see him drop a people's elbow on our old Prime Minister, who I shall not name. Because nothing would make a better press conference than The Rock just storming across stage, "If you smell!" and then just dropping the people's elbow.
Could you imagine if that was happening during, like, when the Brexit contract was out to be signed and all that, and literally Boris has put pen to paper, and then you've got, oh my God, it's the presidential candidate, The Rock.
Well, I won from the next, like,
ladder match.
I went from like the next UN summit is like something's about to happen, and then immediately Stone Cold is here, Stone Cold, and then that's what Putin has got in place to put up against. What a match!
Yeah, some would say it would trivialise American politics, turn it into an entertainment show, but then you realise American politics
is already an entertainment
show. So why not make it a good entertainment show? You know?
Like, all jokes aside, though, the man is clearly successful enough to probably make it work, but it would be hilarious. I want it.
Well, people thought the same about Kanye West, and he didn't even come third in the most recent presidential election. So
yeah, it's because he was only on the ballot in like 4 states.
Actually, he didn't campaign in a state he didn't register in.
It's like, I can't remember what show he was on. It was like a talk show, and they asked him like, "Oh, have you voted?" He went, "I've never voted in my life." It's like, how can you run for president and you've never voted in your life? Disgusting.
Right. I love how I wasn't getting, like, I thought that's kind of a political news story, but, you know, it's also quite funny, so we won't get into anything too deep. Anyway, and last but not least, you heard him there. I'd like to welcome Rhys. Rhys, what are your thoughts on the news that, according to Liam Gallagher, Oasis could be getting back together, and it could happen this year?
Adam, my thoughts on that are that Liam Gallagher has been desperately trying to stay relevant for the last 20 years, and every year he hints at an Oasis comeback, and every year Noel Gallagher has no interest in it. So, not going to happen, and people should just get over it.
Nice. I like that.
I will also say, Adam, if any other groups, podcasts or that want to come at us and insult us and say stuff about our badge, well, fucking come for me then. Come, if you're going to swing at my face. That's all I'll say on that. Diss track coming soon.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
Fuck Oasis. Fuck Oasis. We're a Blur fan podcast, everybody. Come on.
No.
I just
don't know Oasis. Come
again,
on.
I said that to Rhys and not Jack because I thought if I bring up Oasis with Jack, I'll just hear about Blur for the next 20 minutes.
I don't think you could think of a more divisive topic in British history than Oasis versus Blur.
That should be an episode.
Anyway.
Blur versus Oasis.
Well,
Right, again.
let's bring this back to politics, all right?
Yeah.
Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
Right. Everyone's settled down, and Lewis actually, he segued into it well there, and talk about the people. Rock is the people's champion, and I wonder who the people's champion is this week. What about instead of me announce it, Jack? Why don't you say who the people's champion or champions are this week?
Look, right. Don't get me wrong. Right, I'm a huge lover of the people. You know, it's been well known that I appreciate the people. But in this case, I've got no hesitation in saying that the people are fucking idiots. Right? That's exactly what it is. I think do I think that's a bit of a joke that I didn't win this? Yes, but that's besides the point. Do I think it's a bit of a joke that Hitch didn't win it? Yes, that is unbelievable. Here we go. If I'm looking at it right now, Hitch got 21%, 51st States and Summerline's Playbook got 26% each, and Crazy Stupid Love got 27%. Don't know how the fuck that works. It's so stupid anyway.
It doesn't make any sense. Because I think on Lewis's one it said 26.5 each.
Yeah, I think it's Twitter just like, oh, there has to be a winner. We cannot let this go for a tie. So even Twitter are clearly want to know who's going to win the people's vote every year.
So it's me then. All I can say is that the plan went off without a hitch.
Oh, well done.
Come on.
Well done.
Right. Everyone settle down.
And fuck you, I'm not done with this. No, I'm done with it. Don't worry, that's a wee joke. Right?
And there's nothing wrong with our logo.
And after all...
Right. Okay.
Wait, so who won?
No one.
Well, no one.
Everybody but Jack. Everybody but Jack won.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Well done, Twitter.
Thanks everyone. And like I said before, you can find us on Twitter @_thebigpicture if you want to get involved in the people's vote. And now we have that out the way, finally. I don't know if that section's going to stay when I'm the host, but we'll see. I enjoyed that. Anyway, let's introduce today's topic, which is music movies. And for this, we had a big debate about this, but we're going to cover all categories of music movie. So basically anything involving some singing or it's based around music. So by that I mean we're talking about traditional musicals like Oklahoma, Disney-style musicals like Beauty and the Beast, music-style documentaries, a biopic like Bohemian Rhapsody, and more realistic musicals like A Star Is Born. So I'm going to start out with a super basic question. Do you like musicals and do you have a preferred style for the ones I mentioned? I'm going to start with Jack.
Yes, I do like musicals, but I found more that I do enjoy the movies. Like my preferred kind of music movie. As much as I do like the likes of School of Rock, that I more enjoy that for not the music side of it. I just think it's a good movie in general. But see your likes like The Greatest Showman and Mamma Mia and whatnot, all the kind of movies, the ones that could be like that were like a musical then went on to cinema. That's what I kind of prefer. But I will say that the soundtrack that each of these movies produce it far eclipses what the actual movies is. The movies are dog shit compared to what the soundtracks are, but I still get a sense of enjoyment out of it.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. That's interesting. It's quite a bold take. I'm going to come to Rhys next. Rhys, do you like musicals, as I say? Do you have a preferred style? And do you agree with Jack?
I don't like musicals. They are so shit. Last week when I said, it goes like the worst movies go horrors, then rom-coms. I'm going to put musicals in a whole different bracket because they're just terrible. That being said, I do love a good Disney film. So, I personally, I wouldn't class them as musicals, but they are technically musicals nonetheless. So they elevate the category significantly. But other than that, musicals are trash. And I agree with what Jack says in the sense that typically the music from the film is often better than the film. And I don't watch a film for the music. I quite often get frustrated when I'm watching a film and they break out into song. But I do I like a good banger in a musical, so I can be drawn in by that.
Nice. I'm going to come to Lewis next on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a hot topic for us to decide what music movies and what are musicals. I find myself kind of more on the splitting them apart. But that being said, in terms of like actually enjoying the genre, I do. Weirdly enough, I do quite enjoy. I should probably rephrase this. I don't go out of my way like, oh, that's on, I have to go watch it, or go to the cinema and watch this. But I do enjoy them. I've watched kind of all your kind of classical ones, which are probably my more preferred style of musical. I do enjoy the Disney side of things too, but I'd probably say those two are probably my main preference when it comes to music movies. But then there's been a resurgence in these biopics, kind of like as you mentioned, like Bohemian Rhapsody, I think was maybe one, Rocket Man, and a couple other ones. Like they've been kind of getting some traction recently, and I think that might be the next step for me anyway. Start looking at those movies.
Yeah, that's kind of been the recent change in style. I think that Bohemian Rhapsody was sort of the first major one that kind of started off this direction, but I think people have seen how successful that was, and they've jumped on it since with Rocket Man. I think that's probably where we're going to be looking the next few years for musicals. And it comes to Stuart last on that topic. What do you got to say about it?
Adam, if there's one thing I hate more than The Mandalorian, it's musicals. I am not a big fan of musicals. They have to be really spot on for me to like them. A lot of them just don't click with me. For me, a musical can't just be a simple case of it has good songs in it. It has to have a good story. Like Rhys touched upon, like the songs and the music also have to be relevant to the plot. I don't like music. I don't like musicals or even like films in general where they just add songs into it for no reason. I feel like that grinds the storytelling to a halt because at the end of the day, films are a visual medium and it has to have more going on than just some good songs in it. So a lot of them are not for me.
Do you not like? Oh, sorry, Adam.
No, it's okay.
Do you not like a good Quentin Tarantino needle drop during a film? Sure.
I mean, it depends. I think it depends. Quentin Tarantino, he has this style where the music can add to it. I don't mean like just a general like song. I mean like if like people start just kind of like this is the plot's going forward and then suddenly stop, sing, dance. I'm not against that if it serves the plot, but if it's done for just the sake of it, then I don't like it. Quentin Tarantino kind of uses his music, not sparingly, but he does it really well. And there's a good mix in there. Whereas you have a film like, let's just say it, Suicide Squad, where it feels like somebody's in the car next to you, turning the station every 5 seconds, and you've got about like 7 songs in the space of a minute. That I hate.
Yeah. Do you know what I can't get my head around when I'm watching a musical, guys? It's definitely just me, and it's definitely the spectrum side of me that doesn't like this. When I'm watching a musical, I can't get past the fact that everyone there, someone just randomly breaks out into song, and everyone there knows all the choreography and all the lyrics to this random song that the person's making up on the spot, and I can't get past it. It really bugs me. It's probably just me, but I had to get it out there.
Shake it up, baby.
Shake it up, baby.
We're breaking off into random music there during the podcast.
No, but at least that's a song that people know the lyrics to. I'm thinking off the top of my head, Hairspray. She just breaks out in a random songs. Everyone knows the dance and everyone knows the lyrics, or High School Musical, stuff like that. They all know the lyrics. How do they know the lyrics? Is this something that they practice this before so that when the moment's right, they break out? I don't know.
I just want to add to that as well, actually, now that I think about it, and I'm going back to some of the movies I've seen in my head. The actual end of the sequence is some of the most awkward thing you can see in movies, where it's like they've just done this massive choir part, and then they just kind of look at each other and just walk in complete random directions, and you just kind of, what did I just see? It's almost like, you just watch someone like R Reddit die inside, just make a complete arse of themselves, and they're just like, I'm just going to walk off screen as if nothing happened. And the audience kind of left there, kind of like they've just gone on with a high, and then they just completely crashed the ground. And you're like, well, I don't know, maybe there's a better way we can do this.
I think that's quite an interesting point. It's actually about the exit, and after a music sequence like that, it is kind of difficult to do. And the reason why is because, as we discussed, it is kind of unrealistic for everyone to stop and break out into the song. So you put people in an unrealistic situation, it's difficult to get them out of that.
As well as
in
like
a realistic way.
A lot of these movies are adapted from stage musicals. So obviously the easy exit for a stage musical is the curtain to drop down, change the set, go on to the next scene. In a movie, you can't just cold cut it because then it's too jarring and you're just kind of stuck with this kind of awkward limbo. And obviously that needs to be worked, but there's some movies that do it better. Like, I don't know, I don't want to start talking about movies in case obviously people have them pitches. Maybe we'll get to them later, the fact. But there's some movies I think do a really good job of actually balancing the use of music and the film telling itself, and maybe we'll get to them later on. Actually, I better not spoil this.
Nice. We're allowed to talk about films a wee bit. I think if we just tried to tiptoe around all the films because we don't want to pick people's choices.
Right. Okay. Fuck it. I'll go into it then. Les Miserables, or however you pronounce that fucking film, Les Miserables. That is. I thought I would hate that film. Now I went and seen it in the cinema with my advanced placement English class when I was living in the States. And we went and seen that film, and I was floored at how actually enjoyable the film was. When I was told every line was sung, bar one, I was like, I'm going to fucking hate this. There's no way I can sit through 2.5 hours of Hugh Jackman and Russell Crowe, two fairly off-key individuals vocally, sing for 2.5 hours. Boy, was I wrong. They handled that and sung it and delivered it with such grace and beauty that it's just highly appreciated.
Fighting round the world. We must be going.
That's actually a really good point about Les Mis, Lewis. I really enjoy Les Mis as well. And it's interesting as well because a lot of complaints people have, I know no one's mentioned it yet, and it kind of ties into what Rhys said about people coming in, everyone knows the lyrics and the choreography, but people get annoyed when everyone can sing really well. And like everyone they pull off the street is an amazing singer. But obviously in Les Mis, you look at people like Russell Crowe, Sacha Baron Cohen, Helena Bonham Carter, they're not great singers, but because of the role and the character they're playing, they don't have to be, and it works really well in the songs they have to sing. It's not important that they aren't the best singer. It carries along the plot really well. Jack, I know you enjoy Les Mis as well. Is that something you agree with, that you like the way it comes in with the not everyone has to be a good singer, but it all works well with the plot?
Yeah, because like, especially for what you were saying with Sacha Baron Cohen and Helena Bonham Carter, when they do Master of the House in Les Mis, it's pretty hard to imagine someone that's pretty talented at singing to do that any justice. I feel that it's special. I know Matt Lucas has done it in the musical for the 25th anniversary, and he's good at that as well. But he's actually like pretty decent at singing. But with them two, maybe they're not both best musically talented, but they do that song absolute justice in the movie.
Stuart, what do you got to say on that?
I've just got a simple question to ask. I've never seen Les Mis. I've never caught it, but I have watched Sweeney Todd, and that has both Sacha Baron Cohen and Helena Bonham Carter singing for a good piece in that film. And I thought they were really good in Sweeney Todd. Are they not good singers? Like I must have missed something. I thought they were really good in that film.
That was more for the role and what they were doing as well. I felt I don't think they could just go out and just belt something. But it's like for the role they have to play in Les Mis, they're like they own like this kind of, it's like a shop, like it's Master of the House, so it's like kind of where the poor people would go for like their food and whatnot. If I remember that correctly, I think that's right. Adam, correct me if I'm wrong. That's right.
It's an inn. Yeah, it's an inn.
It's like an inn that basically the poor people live.
Right.
Modern Desolate.
Like,
Etc.
I think what basically the point is they're not traditionally vocally talented musical people, as in they're not gonna do this and then do a stage tour show for a couple of years and then have another movie about a showmanship type thing. Oh wait. But the point about Sacha Baron Cohen is that, like, he's not gonna go on stage and win the X Factor, but especially for him as an actor, because I think he's really good both as a physical actor but also really emphasizing the key character traits of a character. He does it really well with how he sings, and I'm sure they probably had vocal coaches kind of talking to the writers and kind of trying to find the way that they want the characters to be represented. But I think in that specific interest, they're not going to be releasing an album and making sales, but for the sense of a character, they do it really well in both Sweeney Todd and Les Miserables.
Right, I get it, yeah.
Rhys, I just want to come to you. We've had the kind of that discussion there kind of branched into a wee bit about tone, and we talked about Les Mis, and that's got quite a nice balanced tone. It's quite a serious elements to it. It's got a bit of romance, a bit of comedy. It's a good mix. But do you have a preferred tone? Like, I know you said you don't like musicals, and that's fine. You don't enjoy them, but if you were looking for a musical to watch, would you want it to have a certain tone? Like, would you prefer it to be more serious, like a drama, like A Star Is Born? I know you like A Star Is Born, or I know we mentioned Hairspray. I know you didn't like that, but that's like obviously something that's more meant to be taken with a pinch of salt. It's meant to be a comedy.
Well, it's interesting because I find the genre quite broad, so I find it hard to compare a movie like A Star Is Born to a movie like Hairspray. If I was watching what I would consider to be like a musical, then to be honest, I would rather watch one that's kind of funny like Hairspray. I've never seen Les Mis. I have heard it is brilliant, and I have no doubts of that. But I don't think that. And again, it's hard to say because I've not seen it, but I don't think I could be swept away by the emotion of the film through song. I mean, I love music and I love film, but I'm not huge on putting the two together. A song that really is like quite heartfelt, I find hard to be portrayed for the characters in the movie. That being said, in A Star Is Born, we all know the absolute banger from that movie, and that has a lot of emotion in it. So movies like that, yeah, they're great for the emotion. So the tone is conveyed in a kind of more dark, sinister way, but I think the movie tells that better than the songs. That being said, some of the songs are great. So Adam, the answer to your question is, I just don't understand the genre.
Fair enough. I appreciate the honesty. Sometimes it's a bit. I like to say it's so broad. It is difficult sometimes. I think to pick out like one particular thing. Like you're saying, there's a lot going on. It's hard to necessarily categorize it. Like there is a lot of obviously comedy based musicals, but then like, do they all have the same kind of element of comedy to them, or some of them more slapstick, or some of them meant to still have a certain serious undertone to it? It's a difficult one.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of musicals touch on the rom-com style as well, and that awkward comedy, which works well for them, and I think it does suit that style. But when we go into this kind of new generation of musicals from films like A Star Is Born and also biopics like Bohemian Rhapsody, we can see a change in the style of musicals, which I think is generally going to be for the better, and we might see a rise in actual quality of the films of musicals in the upcoming 10 or 20 so years.
Nice. Jack, do you have anything to add on the kind of the conversation Rhys and I had about tone there? Anything you want to trip into the conversation?
Not really, to be honest. You've covered it pretty well. No, I think I was more thinking when it was along the line when it's a movie, a lot of what is being done in a musical as well is like I got a lot of that kind of showmanship they're putting on that performance, but I know that Rhys said more at the start. I've kind of Adam, sorry if I can ask Rhys a question actually.
Feel free, please.
Rhys, I'll come to you here. So obviously you said at the start. You said at the start that you prefer your kind of the Disney musicals, so like how in Frozen they're singing the like whatever songs they want to and whatnot, and same with Moana. But that's changed quite drastically from the times of like a Phil Collins soundtrack over like Tarzan or Brother Bear. What do you prefer of the two?
Jack, I don't want to, dip into my pitch too much here, but I will tell you that the films that you mentioned are significantly better than the Tarzans of old, and even like in Toy Story, it's not really musical, but they had the great music of Randy Newman. I would even say that Frozen and Moana, they significantly top that in terms of the music. I'm not saying that guys. I'm not saying that the films are better, right? But I'm just saying, the new age of Disney movies, which I will touch on in my pitch. There we go, guys. We spoiler. It's definitely better.
Nice. Right.
What do you think, Jack?
What do I think? I think I prefer a Paul Newman soundtrack. I think Paul Newman. God, why do you say Paul Newman? Phil Collins. I got mixed up with so many names. Paul isn't one of the names that was like mentioned. I don't know why that was in my head.
Phil Collins and Randy Newman.
Phil Collins. I do more in the sense of tone. I think as you were talking about, I prefer how a Phil Collins and a Randy Newman soundtrack would portray tone in a movie than what newer ones do of like Frozen, Moana and whatnot, as that's just more along the lines of what we're talking about with like our movie music type thing. But in regards to tone, I prefer how Phil Collins and Randy Newman do it with like tell everybody I'm on my way, because I guess you're like, oh, you know it's kind of a joyous moment in the film just through that song and watching what's happening. Is that
Jack, I'm sorry. Are you trying to tell me that you don't understand the let it go is about letting all your negativity go and changing as a person? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I don't think that's what I said at all, to be honest. I think I said
I feel like that's what was implied.
No, I think I said I just prefer one to the other. I can acknowledge that Frozen does that, but I think a Phil Collins soundtrack does it better.
Oh, well, okay, fair enough. If that's your wrong opinion, that's fine.
Good, I'm glad I got that cleared up.
On to Adam.
Yeah, very. We'll break out because there is more than the three of us on this podcast.
Sometimes I wonder.
Yeah, I want to come to Lewis. Just on a kind of similar topic, and I thought it was interesting when Jack brought up earlier about the soundtrack of a film and about it being better than the actual film. And I know Rhys obviously, and then we talked about Frozen and Moana there. It's interesting because Moana is obviously a lot of songs are written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who's quite a famous screenwriter and in the musical scene, and the stage musical scene. And I was wondering if that's something we're going to see more of, these kind of traditional screenwriters and songwriters who are on the stage working with, say, Disney or just in the new style of musical film. Is that something that you'd like to see? Do you think you'd enjoy?
Well, first shout out to Paul Newman, former actor, race car driver, RIP. But in terms of movies going forward, Disney, they use music as a very apt storytelling device in different ways, and I kind of find myself more aligned with Jack in terms of the use of Phil Collins' music in Tarzan, for example. The songs convey the change that's happening to the characters, and something like Moana, where they had the traditional element to it, and I did see some of the behind-the-scenes footage of some of the work that the people you mentioned working with, like The Rock, future president 2024, in shaping how the character would sound and how the music should go. I think because of the popularity of those movies, and Disney being the very strong capitalist organization that it is, Yeah, that's probably the way it's going to go, just because it makes money both in terms of the films, the soundtracks, and then the subsequent merchandise. Do I think that's maybe the best place for it to go in terms of development of the genre? Probably not, but it definitely will probably be the way it'll go, just because of pure money. I mean, we're already seeing Frozen 2 coming. I'm sure there'll be a Moana 2 coming, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Lewis. Frozen 2's already been, mate, so...
Right, okay.
Check
I
yourself.
give a shit about the film.
Right.
Wait a minute!
Right. You can settle
About
this
the
after the
highest
call.
grossing animated film of all time. Oh my gosh.
You settle this classic where he shuts off in the car park later, right?
Oh, yes, please.
What the fuck? Adam, what do you do in your spare time, perchance?
Moving on. I'll come to Stuart. We talked about a lot of soundtracks and stuff, and although it's not a musical, a film that uses music a lot to enhance scenes and almost to tell the story. It's a film that you and I both enjoy, and it's Baby Driver. And I know that's, again, it's not a musical, but it is, I would say, something that a film that relies heavily on music is always to tell the story. Just what do you think about that? I can't find that quite hard to put in a question, but what do you? Well, if I throw that to you, what would you have to say about it?
Well, first of all, I love Baby Driver. Baby Driver is an amazing film. It's probably one of the best times I've had in a cinema the past few years. Having said that, that's probably an exception as opposed to the rule. Earlier on, I said I don't like films that cut through so many different songs in a short space of time. Baby Driver, I feel like, is probably the director's way around that, because I feel like nowadays I don't know what's influenced this. Maybe it's like the Guardians of the Galaxy, or maybe it is Tarantino films, but more and more films seem to use music as a crutch, like traditional music, like third party music from other artists, and I prefer. I'm going to kind of back Rhys. I'm going to come to Rhys's aid for a bit, seeing as how he's getting shit on a lot for this. I like it when I like it when a film uses the music where to progress the plot forwards. I like it when the characters sing and dance, and in the act of singing and dancing, that song and dance is telling us how the film is moving and where it's moving to, because it does it in a unique way. It's a new show don't tell, and as long as they can do that well with good music and not something that beats you over the head with it, I would prefer that type of storytelling to music. Let's just this sounds cool. This has got a good beat. Obviously, that aids action scenes. In an action scenes, not a lot of plot happens because it's action. So I feel like that should stay with the action. But for plot reasons, I feel like you should be more creative and just with it.
Yeah, I just you probably think the fact that's the exception is probably down to Edgar Wright. Obviously, he's famous for editing, almost the rhythm director, because everything he does is edited to the beat. And what's together like Shaun of the Dead and stuff's got similar with the soundtrack. Although, Lewis, you got something to say on that?
Yeah, I mean, Stuart kind of touched on it with both the Tarantino point and also the Suicide Squad point, and I think this is maybe more of a sociological thing with how current time is going, with the reason that I think more and more people relying on just throwing in third-party music and creating a somewhat viral moment is for marketing purposes and trying to take advantage of social media. Whereas, like, people like Tarantino, as you said, Edgar Wright, probably Tarantino more than Wright, used music as a way to enhance the scene, not necessarily as a storytelling arc, but, and I'm flashing back to Kill Bill for this one, that, like, the music is used as a sort of way to enhance what the actors are trying to portray and really dial it up to 10 or 11, however you want to argue it. And I think that is a lost art with films now. And Baby Driver is probably the last 5 years I can think of, and maybe Stuart will know more than me, That's probably like the best example that's come forward. And I think, unfortunately, because of the rise of Twitter and Vine and, well, not Vine, what's the other one called, TikTok and Instagram, and that viral moment, or creating that sort of like short clip that you can share about how awesome this trailer is cut with Queen music. I think it's almost like a trope of laziness that's kind of fallen into.
Nice. I want to come to a serious topic now. Just everyone just tone down the hilarity, down to 3 or 4 at least. See, when it comes to a serious theme, and I'm talking things like the poverty in Les Mis, the addiction that's shown on screen in Rocket Man, and obviously Freddie's getting HIV in Bohemian Rhapsody. Do you think when these are touched on through music, do you think it has the same or more of an impact than just being approached in a traditional way, or does it even take away from it? I want to come to Jack on that one.
I definitely felt it most in Les Mis compared to the other two, but I think because the other two is like a kind of biopic in a sense. I don't know if maybe that's why I didn't really have the same sort of impact. But with Les Mis, like the point when they're singing, "Do you hear the people sing?" I can't remember if that's what it's called. But do you hear people sing the songs of Angry Men? That's like when the
Red. Yeah.
It's like when they're standing up against the kind of the upper class of society, pretty much, and they're kind of fighting back against the authority and whatnot. And at that point during the song, and it's like a bit like a call to arms when they're all getting ready to gear up for what's happening. They've got the barricade up and all that. I really felt it there, that like emotion of sort of like, oh, this is really like passionate, like they believe in the cause that they want to do. I definitely felt it more in that than what I did the other two films you mentioned.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Stuart, you got anything to add on that?
I'd just say what Jack said about how he doesn't feel that the other two films, Rocketman and Bohemian Rhapsody, kind of achieved that. I would disagree. I think it's a more abstract way of telling the audience about these issues. We're pretty firmly in my pitch territory with this answer, but for example, how Rocketman deals with addiction, it uses songs to show how drugs can alter the perception of time and personality. Because if you look at the song as the period where a character has taken drugs, then Life is Large, or it's got new rhythm. It's literally all singing, all dancing, and it seems over pretty quickly. But when the character is back in the film after the song, narratively a huge passage of time has happened. So when the character is like, "Whoa, how is it next month already?" the film is showing that drug addiction is messing with them and their perception, which is a very clever way, I think, to show the audience rather than just tell them, "Oh, they've taken drugs and it's messing with them."
I think we're seeing here, and I think it's a huge problem with music and not just musicals in general. We're kind of seeing examples of it here where people don't actually listen to music very well. They maybe hear it, they listen to the beat, it's a catchy chorus or a catchy hook or something like that. They don't actually care about the lyrics or the composition of the song. And like Stuart was saying there about how the music in don't know, whatever, Rocket Man, that shows how addiction can slow down time and stuff like that. That's down to the composition of the song, and a lot of good music gets overpassed in society because of the lack of a funky beat or whatever. But whereas the lyricism, one of my favorite artists of all time is Bob Dylan. In 2014, or I think it was, he won a Nobel Prize for his contribution to poetry because of his music lyricism. If Bob Dylan was an artist today, he wouldn't get looked at twice because he's not Pitbull, because Pitbull knows how to put a funky beat on a song. The two aren't comparable. So when you put music into a movie, it kind of falls into the same category. Whereas people, Jack was saying that he prefers the older Disney style with Randy Newman and Phil Collins, and he says that conveys the tone better for him. But the actual lyrics in Let It Go from Frozen, which I was talking about earlier, and I'm not saying that Jack's opinion is wrong or anything like that.
You already
What I'm
have.
trying to say,
You already
what I'm
have.
trying to say is that the lyrics in that actually convey quite a sad story, and it kind of brings the whole film together with this one absolute banger of a song with really great lyrics. But that kind of gets overlooked because at the same time it's got a funky beat and it's really catchy and it's almost a power ballad. But people don't really care about the lyrics. But if you actually deep the song down, even the composition of the song is the music is imperative to a good film, and the music gets overlooked more often than not. People just kind of ignore it, and that's not just a problem with musicals. It's a problem with society in general in terms of good music, in my opinion. And I think that's true here with what Stuart was saying there in comparison to what Jack had been saying earlier.
I think that's a really excellent point. Be sad to have to say. It's interesting as well because when you were talking there, and I was thinking about great lyricists and things, and one of my favourite bands, and it's one of Jack's as well, is the Mountain Goats. For the reason, and one of the reasons is that their lyrics are so good, but then they do get lost, and it's funny because they're maybe the most the kind of most famous album is an album where the themes are maybe a bit more on show, and they don't necessarily use as much. They don't hide them as well. Because it's all, and all the songs in that have a great catchy tune to it. So I think it's not a surprise that the mass audience would find it and discover it and like the tune, but then they wouldn't explore the huge discography with the lyricism would maybe be a lot better. I just want to come to Lewis on that topic. Actually, I guess quite an interesting point Rhys made. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Yeah, and I think this kind of ties into what I was saying earlier about how music is being used in trailers better, is that as a culture and a society, we're progressing to a sort of immediate gratification. And as a result of that, you're just looking for surface level. I don't want to use the word gratification, but surface level kind of entertainment. And they're not. I'm talking like I'm fucking 50 years old here. Like, back in my day, we appreciated art for art. But there's definitely an effort now with music, and rap is probably my second favorite genre. I'm still definitely in the rock scene, which there's some fantastic music in there that have deep lyrics. But with rap music, there's a focus now on, as Rhys said, kind of more potent beats and like heavy basses, whereas your artists like your XXXTentacion, J. Cole, I'm not going to say Eminem because that'll trigger Rhys for like 2 hours to go on a rant, but these artists have wonderful lyrical styles and very poignant messages. Like, for example, J. Cole had a song about Kanye West and how he completely fell off, and it's very clear he's having a mental breakdown and he really needs help, and we're just laughing at him and buying his music. About 8 years ago, he was like, this guy needs help, and he's telling it in the musical form, and he's outlining how as a society now we're feeding this machine. And I think to kind of tie it back into music and musical films, as you kind of said about tone and serious issues, the power of music alone is impressive. The power of film alone is impressive. And if you can sync the two together in a very cohesive and recognizable way for even the dumbest audience member, I'm sorry I'm throwing you guys under the bus, not you people, I mean like dumb people, that they can appreciate the lyrics and the music beyond just what they're hearing in terms of an instrument level, and actually hear what the artist is trying to convey. There's a whole world of appreciation available to them that they just never knew existed beforehand. And I think as much as I enjoy musicals and I kind of enjoy them more on the lighter side, the potential is unfathomable, and it's a bit disheartening that it's been failed.
Interesting. It's an interesting point as well, but the kind of the lessons, if you want, you take from musicals, because obviously we talked about Disney a lot, and I want to go to Jack, and I'm going to ask a question here, and I don't want it to throw you off. I'm actually going to come at you, and I want you to just take it as it is. Would you be happy with letting your kids from whatever age you decide to let them watch films, watch Disney movies, would you be happy with the lessons they were taught and how they were taught them?
I don't know.
Well,
That's
the
all.
the question's a bit twofold. Are you going to making them watch the old Disney movies, or the like 1930s Mickey Mouse? Are you going to be making them watch the new Disney movies?
I'm not gonna make them watch. I can never remember the name of it. The bad racist one. They don't have to watch that. I just thought we're talking
past that one.
Yeah, we're talking about the messages that they portray through songs, and I think that the kind of point I was hoping you'd make, because I don't want to make too many points as the host, but if I just turn it around and kind of expand it a bit and say that like a lot of Disney movies they use, and like we said, we talked about Let It Go already, the kind of message of that about letting all the kind of hard things go. If you talk about the messages within these songs, they're quite often positive messages and things and lessons that you want your kids to learn. So that's just, I just wanted to ask you that and see if you would maybe say something along those lines. But if I throw it to you now, what's your answer?
Sure. Yeah.
Nice.
I think depending on the age, obviously they won't understand. I think they'll just want to watch the movie just because of like what it is. I don't know. Like for example, if I had kids at the time of Frozen coming out, they'd want to see it because it's like two princesses in like a winter castle. They're not wanting to really watch it for the music at the start, but then obviously that's what will get them hooked on it. But maybe they'll understand the messages when they're a bit older or something. I don't know. I wouldn't really go in thinking I'm going to let them watch this movie to teach them such and such. I'd do that at a point where they can understand it, but at a young age, if it's a tricky one.
Yeah, I mean, Jack's right here. I mean, Disney's not their dad. I mean, they'll learn that stuff eventually. Jack will put that in.
In lieu of raising his kids properly, would he show them Disney? It was kind of like a learning aid, because I just remember when I was younger and I used to, and I can see now that a lot of things I used to watch used to be teaching me lessons about life. And I'm not saying that I couldn't have got those lessons off mum or dad or Stefan. I could have, but it was good to like get those in a form of media that I would understand as at a young age, and then maybe they had that effect on me and I didn't realize it then. Lewis, you got anything to say about
that? Well, I've thought of like 6 different points, so I'm going to try and be concise as I can here. But first off, parents, don't raise your kids on Disney films. Be present, please. Second, as Rhys kind of mentioned with Let It Go and the kind of lyrics behind it, I think there's a problem with, well, one, you're dealing with kids' attention spans, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever babysat a 4-year-old, but they don't really sit still for very long, and if they do, it's just because something bright and somewhat entertaining is in front of them. They don't really see the depth behind it. But that being said, time to delve into the psyche of Lewis and his private therapy session that goes on the internet. My favourite film growing up when I was a wee boy was Lion King, and I burned through that so many times. And as someone who had an absent father, Mufasa was such a big, I don't know, character for me that I really enjoyed, because I thought, wow, there's a guy that wants to protect his son and develop him and grow him, and then Simba kind of like hurt by the past, and I keep on flashing back to the scene where he gets hit by the stick, and he's like, oh, what'd you do that for? He's like, doesn't matter, it's in the past. And then he swings it again, he ducks, and he's like, see, you learned. Like, there is an element to Disney films that could relay messages, but I think in terms of using the music for it, it's just lost on kids until they get to an age where they kind of look back on it and they maybe understand it. I think there's too much of a depth to the certain music for that to kind of work. I forgot my other part, so like if you can just ramble, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, but I think to pick up from where Lewis left off there, I think Disney movies aren't specific to children. Like, I think that
was my point, but I'll let you go. Yeah, basically,
I went to
who was it for?
Cinema to see Frozen when it came out in 2013, and I went to the cinema to watch the new Beauty and the Beast when it came out. I think a lot of people up into their mid, maybe even late 20s, will still watch Disney movies. When they come out. I still watch every Pixar movie when it comes out. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. And the lessons are still going to be learned from young children all the way up into adulthood. Where maybe I'll stop watching it when I'm in my late 20s, but then who knows? probably not going to happen, but I might have children by then. So, I could be stuck watching Disney movies still, and then the lessons will still be fed through me for the rest of my life, and Disney will just make a shit ton of money off me because I just keep watching their movies. So I think the lessons will always be there for every age group, and they're not specific to an age group. So you will eventually learn them, maybe not at 3 years old, but maybe at some point.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a darker point is how good Disney is allegedly at subliminal messages and planning. I mean, obviously there's the conspiracy theories about stuff that they've put in clouds and stuff. But
conspiracy theories, no ads. Lewis, come on, you're trying to... We don't even got ads here. You're trying to get them taken off us.
This message is brought to you by... So I think the problem with Disney films is like, who's it for? And obviously, I think you can go and watch anything from Disney, and any age group can get something out of it, whether it's, a bit of comedy for the teens or a bit of a message for the adults who kind of get it, or just like the general bright excitingness for the kids. But the who's it for, I think, is the bigger question when it comes to these movies, in terms of like, I only kind of realized what was happening in these films in terms of the life lessons, if you will, till 5 years after I watched them, and I look back as a more mature person and realized, oh, that's what it was trying to tell me. Okay, I kind of understand that now. I'm not saying it was too late at that point, but it's like, I think in terms of the Disney side of things, the focus on the kids is probably more marketing than it is messaging.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think we had some good points there. We're just going to move on. And we're nearly at time for your guys' pitches, but I thought I couldn't talk about musicals without bringing up the only Scottish musical of any significance, because I'm not counting Brigadoon. Sunshine on Leith. Jack, have you seen it? And how do you rate it?
I very much enjoy it. I think it's great. Obviously, it's Sunshine on Leith, given what it is, Proclaimers music. I think a lot of people maybe don't like the idea of that to begin with, but for a Scottish music movie, so to speak, it's arguably really the only band you could do it on. I've said to you about this before, but like how I feel with music movies in general, I don't really enjoy them upon the first watch, but I will still go back and watch it more and more and more, and I'll appreciate it more then. And it relates to a lot to the scene in How I Met Your Mother, when it's Marshall and Ted when they drive his car, but he's got his tape stuck in his tape player in the car. The only song that plays is 500 Miles. And the first time they listen to it, Ted's a bit like, and then Marshall's like, just let it come round again, and then by like the 10th playthrough, they're pure singing it, like enjoying it for what it is. And I feel that with this movie, and probably most music movies in general, that having that kind of analogy is exactly how I feel it is. I don't really enjoy it that much at first, but when you listen to it more and you watch it more, you're full going in, you're singing the songs that's happening and whatnot.
I thought that was a good closing note, Jack. And I just want to quickly go out to the people. We asked for your favourites on Twitter. And we had the Lost in His Own Museum podcast, who said Blues Brothers, Whiplash, Bohemian Rhapsody, Straight Outta Compton, and The Dirt were his favourite musicals. We also had Ryan, who said South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Whether or not we're gonna count that, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
We are going to count that.
We are going to
count that because we love fan interaction. Thank you.
That literally starts off with a song. All right, that is a musical.
Okay. Right, well, I guess time we got into the pitches. I
just want to make a mention. Shout out to The Pick of Destiny, one of the best music films there is, and features metal. So yay!
And it has the greatest song of all time in it.
True that.
What? Literally.
Right. Okay, let's get on to the pitches. I want to hear from you guys what your favourite music movie is and why it's the best. And I'm going to come to Rhys first.
Oh, okay. Well, I was expecting the Wheel of Fortune to be coming, but
where's the wheel, Adam?
We've had complaints. People, they can't see the wheel. They don't like it.
Who's complaining? You come in here, you give us a new intro that we have to read the headlines about, and now no wheel.
The Duke
of Edinburgh's in hospital, Adam.
that was going to be in there, but I didn't want to get anyone to lose their job. Right.
I have a job. I can say something anyway.
Right. Okay. Rhys, carry on.
Anyway, so I've been quite busy and I've not quite managed to write an actual script. So, if I repeat myself or if my notes seem a bit just all over the place, just deal with it, right? I've already accepted that. I'm pretty sure no one in the panel likes this movie, but my favourite anyway. Yes, of course, it is the third highest grossing animated film of all time and the third highest grossing musical of all time, Frozen. You guys already know. I've talked about it enough already in this one. So one of the reasons that I think that Frozen is the best musical is because of the story and a lot of the key themes that are in the story. So the movie starts with, Anna and Elsa. They're in their castle. Elsa accidentally freezes Anna, and it sets up the whole plot of the movie. Blah blah blah, and then Elsa's told, you can't use your powers, and they lock them into the castle. And they say, well, you can't go outside until Elsa controls her powers, and a lot of that's to do with the subjugation of women. Guys, what word? Subjugation of women in a patriarchal society. Who'd have thought I'd bring that out in Frozen? Anyway, because they're locked up in the castle. Elsa is widely appreciated in the LGBTQ community because she was born different to everyone else, and she's told to hide her true self. And then when people find out about her true self, she's shamed and embarrassed and called a monster, which leads to her being unwelcome in her kingdom. And I think a lot of Frozen is about feminism and empowering women, which we learn from songs like Let It Go, because obviously Let It Go is literally about, letting go of what everyone says about you, just being yourself. And, strangely for a Disney song, or maybe not strangely, she, during the song, finds out about like her sexuality as well, when she has the dress on, and then she slams the doors instead of the doors being closed on her, and it's just all about empowerment and stuff like that. The film as well, I think something that's very clever. It constantly makes fun of old Disney movies and stupid traditions and tropes like love at first sight. Elsa doesn't give Anna blessing to marry a man that she just met, which leads to a big fight and Elsa storming out. Anna chases after her, and that's where she meets Kristoff. And at a point in their story, they have an argument whilst being chased about the ridiculousness of marrying someone you just met and the concept of true love. They also make fun of the Prince Charming trope. Throughout the film, Prince Han is portrayed as the Prince Charming of all Disney movies, and he's so handsome, charming, polite, cordial. But it turns out that Prince Charming isn't all that. Whereas the working class, rough, poorer, less clean, less polite, less fake guy is much nicer and a far better suited partner for Princess Anna. As cinema and Disney movies in particular have led this narrative for years about how, how Prince Charming's the one, he's going to save the day and all that. Adults in the cinema were caught gasping at the reveal of Han being the bad guy, and it was a huge thing. And I think Disney were very clever when they made this movie with all their kind of swipes at traditional tropes in film. So in the act of true love was also a clever twist in this film, and it was also even better because the story leads you to believe that when the man when Prince Han was gone, they all thought, well, now Kristoff, they've had chemistry, so he'll come and save the day with a true love's kiss. But actually, Anna shows her love for Elsa by risking her life to save her, and then she freezes it. I'm not going to get into the whole how she freezes part, but she freezes, and then Elsa hugs her and starts crying, and it's not true love shown in a romantic form, which it always is in every Disney and every film when it comes to true love. It's a sisterly love, but true love nonetheless. There's a lot of great parts of this film. The song, the Fixer Upper song, it plays on the fact that women are told that they constantly need to fix men, and how men they need to be fixed by a good woman. But this song insists that nobody's perfect, and everybody needs a little fixing. There's key concepts of nature v nurture, where Elsa is constantly told to hide her powers and act like a real queen, and despite doing this, her magical nature keeps coming through. And there's just a lot of cleverness to this. I mean, character a lot of people really liked, and a lot of women in particular really liked, was Anna, and they particularly liked the fact that a princess wasn't portrayed in a perfect, above everyone else person, but she was portrayed like an average woman. And if it felt more relatable, she was awkward and she was funny. But something that they really liked was the fact that she was portrayed the way when she woke up was she had her hair all over the place, drool all over her face. It was realistic. Everyone else in Disney movies wakes up, or movies in general, wakes up with makeup all over their face. So it was very clever. I can't really talk about Frozen without mentioning Olaf. I mean, I don't really need to mention any more than just saying he's an absolutely hilarious character. He just deserves a mention. And the songs, the key part of a musical, the songs. So I mentioned Fix It Up and I mentioned Let It Go, but I think Let It Go, I talked about it earlier. I don't really care what anyone else in the panel has to say about this song, because if you don't like it, it might have something to do with the fact that it was in the charts for 70 consecutive weeks. I mean, the song is actually really good. I mean, I was talking about how people don't really understand lyrics very well. The song's very empowering to young women and inspirational for young children, not to mention the fact that it is just a banger. And on top of that, it won a Grammy and an Academy Award. So regardless of if you like the song, it is an absolute banger. I can't see anyone else's music from any of their films being as successful as that. So I think to conclude, Frozen is the best musical because of what it's done for Disney films. It's changed the way that Disney films are written. And Jack might not like it that way, but I think it's definitely better. It provided a storyline of very key themes of feminism and empowering women, and how they didn't need a man to save the day. And that has then led to another great film in Moana being made. And I just think, in general, we're in a genre of movies that isn't that great just now, but could definitely get better. The third highest grossing animated film of all time, and the third highest grossing musical of all time, second to only The Lion King and Frozen 2. Frozen, in my opinion, is the best musical. What's your thoughts?
Thank you. Thanks. I'll throw it out to the panel. Any thoughts?
A good defence. I think you were veering on Adam's kind of length of pitch of the Disney episode that we did, so I was a bit worried about that. I'm kind of glad they did stop then, but I respect that you think it's better than Moana, but I will politely disagree.
Well, like I said, it steered the way from Moana, and if Moana was better, it would have sold more, but it didn't. So
I think
there we go.
One thing, I don't know, maybe Jack can relate to this because he worked in retail, but I worked in retail during the peak of Frozen, and I'm just sick of hearing it in any way. I get like severe sort of like, I just want to throw up as soon as I hear the song. But one thing that Rhys mentions there that I think is important, Frozen maybe was like the peak of the turning point for Disney to start maybe being a bit more modern. I would say they did some of the things that Rhys spoke about in terms of being more progressive for women, the less reliance on men, sort of true portrayal of a person rather than being the sort of esoteric beauty they did previously and already with movies like Brave, which came out before Frozen. But
What's
I think
Pixar?
Pixar, Disney. Anyway, same studio, but moving on. Frozen, I think it gets a bit of a bad rap just because of how overly commercial it was in terms of its success. And I think, me personally, I will never like the film just purely because of I was bombarded with it for years, being in, a semi-functioning adult during 2012. But I can't knock it. It did well, and it was a turning point for Disney.
Yeah, I think Lewis actually touched on it really well there. It was a great film, and I think people do not like it because of how popular it was. And Lewis, like he said, he doesn't like the song because he's heard it so much, but that doesn't actually take away from the fact that it is a great song and it was a great movie. But he's right; it was probably too popular.
Stuart, anything?
I'd agree with.
Yeah.
I'd agree with Jack. That was a really good pitch. I do like Frozen. I'm not one of these people. I didn't see it. I knew it was like the most hyped film of the year. When did you say it came out? 2013.
2013,
I know for a fact I didn't see it until 2015, because that was the year Age of Ultron came out. I didn't see it until then, and I really, it's to be applauded for what it does for like playing with the tropes of and female empowerment and everything like that. However, I would say that whilst it paved the way for Moana, I think Moana does everything just that little bit better, including all of the songs. Because whilst you said about it was a good argument about the Fixer Upper song, I really don't like that song. I'll listen to any of the songs in Frozen apart from that one. I hate it. Whereas it grinds. I think it grinds everything to a halt. You know, I feel like whilst there is a message of like, yeah, everyone needs fixing, I don't think the issue of like, well, love will fix everything is a good message to teach kids at sometimes. So I would say that that's probably the only downside I would have for Frozen.
I didn't really get the theme of love will fix everything from the song. Certainly the chorus is, yeah, he's a bit of a fixer-upper, but then who isn't? I don't really think it's like, well, if you love him, then he'll be better.
Well, I feel like that's the kind of they are wanting them to get together. Like the whole, like they even say, fiance, that could be a problem. We'll get him out of the way. Like that's even before anything's actually come out of like him being a bad guy. So it's not as a great message for kids as I would think it is. But no, it was a good argument.
Thanks.
Right. Thanks for that, Rhys. We're gonna stay with you, Stuart, and I want you to tell us your favourite musical. Why it's the best?
My favourite musical out of all the musicals, and there are a couple. My pick for the best musical is Rocketman, and I've googled it, and yes, it's a musical. It's a biopic about the life of Elton John, a world famous musician who has suffered from drug abuse, alcohol abuse, sex addiction, among other things, such as eating disorders and depression. It's got quite a lot of hard, like you mentioned earlier, Adam, quite a lot of hard, mature themes that it carries really well into the film. The director, who incidentally is the director who had to replace Bryan Singer to save Bohemian Rhapsody, uses the musical aspect of the film to tell parts of the story in bigger and more meaningful ways. I was going to say off the bat, I absolutely love this film. I don't care that it's a musical. This film is amazing. It came out in 2019, and I'm fairly certain it was my film of the year because I just loved everything about it. For starters, the music. The music is incredible. It's the most important aspect of a musical, and this film nails it. The soundtrack is fantastic, and not simply because it's all Elton John songs. It uses these world famous Elton John songs in new and surprising ways, and it honestly feels like these songs were always meant to tell this story. In my opinion, this film elevates these songs, and in some cases are better than the originals, like Honky Cat, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, I'm Still Standing. I don't care what you guys think. What this film does with these songs elevates them over the originals. I love them. Not only does it improve these old songs, but it also gave us a brand new song from Elton John and Berry Taupin called I'm Gonna Love Me Again, which won the Oscar for Best Original Song. The acting and performances in this film are top tier. Taron Egerton, who plays Elton John, is amazing. He is Elton John, enough said. Like, absolutely amazing job he does with this role. It's on another level. He, in my opinion, should have been nominated for an Oscar for his performance. He encapsulates not just the voice of Elton John, but the style and the musician in him and the outcast that he portrays, and his singing is so goddamn good. It strikes the right balance of sounding like himself and Elton John, so it doesn't sound just like anybody trying to be Elton John. It's his own unique performance. But it's not just him. The performances in singing from Richard Madden and Jamie Bell, who plays Bernie Taupin in the film, and Richard Madden plays his old manager, are also top notch, and you're really invested in each of Elton's relationships, be that with his father or his love interest or his best friend. The story is great. It's more than just a biopic about an artist. It's the story of learning to love yourself and be happy with who you are. It deals with mature and real problems, as we said, such as addiction and domestic abuse in really insightful ways, whilst also using music to show that what these things can do to a person. As we discussed about like how drug addiction can alter your perception of time, but also as Rhys brought up earlier about how lyrics are overlooked nowadays. This film uses established songs to tell new meanings with these lyrics, as well as progress the plot and inform the audience how the characters are feeling in a variety of ways. For example, it uses an old Elton John song, I Want Love, which was originally a breakup song, to show how broken and without love Elton's family was when he was a child, or using Honky Cat, which was a song about pursuing a dream against other people's advice, to show this rush into fame and money whilst beginning a downward spiral. It does all of this so stylishly and so creatively. All the dance numbers are unique and the costumes look exactly like what Elton John would wear. But the best thing this movie achieves is it leaves the audience wanting more. I hate musicals. I just do. Once I've seen it once, I'm usually soured on it and I don't want to see it again. Mamma Mia, no chance. I'd rather listen to ABBA. Greatest Showman, hated it. Don't even want to listen to the songs on the radio. But with Rocket Man, not only will I watch this any day of the week, I also want a sequel. I want a sequel to this film without spoiling too much about the film. It ends around about the 1990s with Elton John getting his life back on track. But there's so much more you can talk about. You could do a sequel that covers his recovery from bankruptcy, him taking newspapers to court, his AIDS charity, fighting for same-sex marriage, his relationship with Princess Diana. You could absolutely do a sequel, and personally, I would welcome it because the best musical of all time deserves a sequel. And that's my pitch.
Thanks for that. Thank you, Stuart. I enjoyed that pitch. Anyone got anything to say about that?
I feel like Stuart, I actually feel like you touched on it quite well. That I feel like films like this and Bohemian Rhapsody and Straight Outta Compton kind of cheat in this category of musicals because they don't have to make up new songs because they can already play like certified bangers. I feel like you touched on it quite well when you said they played them in a new light to kind of tell a different story from what they were originally, though. But I did really appreciate your line where you said that these songs were, you felt like these songs were made for the movie. Well, yeah, no shit, because the movie's about fucking Elton John and he wrote the song, so no shit.
Benny Taupin wrote most of the songs.
That's true. Bernie did write pretty much all of them. But what I mean, like, is these songs were written years and years ago, and they weren't fully realised until being included in this film.
I enjoyed the pitch. I'd say that I much prefer Rocket Man to Bohemian Rhapsody. I'd go as far as to say that I don't like Bohemian Rhapsody, but that's purely because in Rocket Man they actually sing the songs in their own way, whereas like Bohemian Rhapsody it's just the Queen soundtrack. It's just that's what it is. I think because there's that kind of take, it feels a bit more real in a sense when you're watching it because they do the songs themselves. I think that's why I enjoy it more.
Yeah, but Jack, what did you think of Straight Outta Compton?
I've not seen it.
I didn't think you had.
Nice. Lewis, you got anything to say?
I would say, like, I have not seen Rocket Man, and I've heard good things about it. But what I think is key is, one, telling the music in a new way. But I think this dramatic retelling of careers in music is the future for this genre. And as Rhys mentioned, with like other films like Straight Outta Compton and Bohemian Rhapsody, like this has to be the next step, and it has to be done in a dramatic way and actually have a poignant point about it. I find myself attached to music movies that are more kind of, upbeat tone, a bit more happier and Larry. But this, I think, is the next kind of serious step for music. I think Rocket Man, from what I can tell, I haven't watched it, so I'm not gonna go in depth. I do like Stewart's pitch for it, but I think the fact that they were able to get it in such a dramatic and almost Oscar bait way, it really helps define the genre and make it a more of a serious, accepted genre. I think Rocket Man probably done that definitely better than Bohemian Rhapsody, because I've seen that. But Straight Outta Compton is another one. Those two, I think, are definitely going to be the kind of way forward.
I've not seen Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't know why. I was going to. I think what really soured me is obviously there was meant to be that Sarenbang. What's I can't even say his name.
Sacha Baron Cohen.
Sacha Baron Cohen. That's it. He was meant to play. It was meant to be a Freddie Mercury biopic. But then Queen kind of stepped in and were like, no, we don't want all of this. We want it to be a Queen movie rather than a Freddie Mercury movie. Except everyone else is boring as fuck, especially Brian May. But I think the problem is Bohemian Rhapsody is the one everyone remembers, not because it's a better film than Rocket Man, because it absolutely isn't, and I can tell you that even without seeing it, but because Queen is more well known. Like, Queen obviously is more instantly recognisable than Elton John, and I really wish that Rocket Man had been made either before Bohemian Rhapsody or Bohemian Rhapsody was allowed to just tank like it was. Because not only did I say like the Rocket Man director had to come in and save Bohemian Rhapsody, but in doing that, it's overshadowed the story he wanted to tell. Because I feel like this is kind of the pinnacle that should set the trend for a new film, because it's not afraid to be a musical. From what people have told me about Bohemian Rhapsody, it's one of those things that Rhys hates, where let's try out this new song. Immediately, the beat to Another One Bites the Dust comes on, and everybody jams with it immediately. There's none of the effort put in that Rocket Man not only wants to do, but revels in doing it. There's a lot of effort in how these songs came about and how these songs are put into the film, and it's a tragedy that this film's not recognised more.
Yeah, I agree with that, Stuart. I really didn't like Bohemian Rhapsody, especially when I watched it back a second time. I think Rocket Man's a far better film. And I agree. I'd like to see if I would mind seeing more films in this style, but it'd have to be Rocket Man style for me to enjoy them. Anyway, moving on.
Float a question real quick about this?
Of course you can.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe you guys can't really answer. I don't know. Do you think something like Bohemian Rhapsody would have been better if the Queen band itself didn't hold the rights and he was still alive to kind of create the film how he thinks it should have been done, kind of like how Rocket Man done it?
I mean, I'll just jump. I'll come in and answer, even though I'm the host.
It's a genuine question because, I feel like because it was more, I don't want to say the word corporate, but it seems to be more like clinical and just trying to capitalize on money. Whereas if Freddie was still alive, I think the artist side of things would have been a bit more pure.
Yeah, you could say it was hamstrung a little bit by Freddie Mercury being dead, and the fact that it was Queen were so heavily involved, especially you think that only 2/3 of Queen were so heavily involved, because John Deacon just doesn't associate himself with Queen anymore and doesn't even he's just not involved. So you're missing out on a whole different. He's just like a minor character because he's just because he's the background. It's John Deacon. He's in the background, but John Deacon's a guy. He lived. He had things to say, I'm sure, but he's a background character because they can't get him involved. Anyway, Stuart, you got anything to say about
that? To answer Lewis's question, I think absolutely. What I think enables Rocket Man to be a better film is Elton John basically said, look, tell it true, warts and all, bad stuff as well. Obviously, a lot of it is dramatised and there's a lot of give and take for the plot, but Elton John's not afraid to tell the bad parts of his life, his addiction and how he acted. He even he says himself he's got anger issues and he doesn't deal well with confrontation and not getting his way. The only way to tell this kind of story and make it interesting and true is to tell all of it. There was, I think it was mentioned by that the tweet shout-outs. There's a film called The Dirt, which is based on Motley Crue. And like Bohemian Rhapsody, Motley Crue were heavily involved didn't want all the bad stuff about all the drugs being told and everything like that, and it suffers for it because it's boring and it's not true to the band. All of these bands of an era, you know, they were out of control. If I wanted to see a Rolling Stones band and all they do is just, you know, sit in a booth recording and then say nice things about each other, that's not true, and it's going to be boring as fuck. You have to be honest and true to what the nature of the band was at the time. And like Adam said, Bohemian Rhapsody suffers from being told by a committee, which was Queen the band. I'm sorry, I love Queen, but I'm sorry, Freddie Mercury made that band. That's the reason for its success. And to honour his memory, I feel like you should have told it as true as possible and not made any caveats because you're afraid of upsetting people.
Perfect. Well, unless anyone's got anything to add.
It was just
move on.
the reason the
Like,
question came to mind was like Ice Cube was on Graham Norton talking about Straight Outta Compton, and he said like his son asked him when he obviously his son plays him in the movie, in case you didn't know that, but he like his son turned him one day after reading the script. He went, "Did you really do this?" And Ice Cube went, "Well, yeah." And he went, "Oh shit." So like his own son didn't really know the history of the group, and I think the authenticity is really shown in Straight Outta Compton, where it just kind of isn't with Bohemian Rhapsody. So I guess that was kind of my greater point, and Stuart completely nailed it. I just wanted to throw in the caveat about Ice Cube and his son.
nice.
Can you really
Well,
trust Ice Cube? He said he'd never have dinner with the president. That's a good niche reference there for you.
nice.
Anyway,
Yeah, sorry, I was on
let's
mute.
roll on
I was on mute. I said I
like it.
appreciate that, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Moving on. I want to come to Jack, and I want to ask Jack, what's the name of the game? What's your choice?
Very good, very good. As you can probably tell with that, with when I'm watching these kind of musical movies, you have brought a lot of cases because of the kind of undertones and the meanings of what the movie musical is all about. For me, I just want to watch these. I just want to sing some songs, have an absolutely fun time, not really think too much, and you get that with Mamma Mia. So I think that is the greatest movie musical of all time, and I'll jump right in, as Adam said, the name of the game. ABBA is, without a doubt, the greatest pop band ever, right? Everyone far and wide knows ABBA songs, and like with that in the film, it's wall to wall. It's just fun music, and you have a fun time watching it. So like, it's absolutely brilliant to love. I guess I should probably actually say what the film's about, seeing as the other two did. You've got Meryl Streep as Donna Sheridan, lives in this Greek island alone, and her daughter Sophie, who's Amanda Seyfried's about to get married to the love of her life, but she wants to know who her father is because she's been raised by herself in this wee Greek island. Finds out that Donna had 3 lovers in her escapades after leaving university, and invites all 3 of her potential fathers. And it's the story of who the father is and what happens in the wedding, blah blah. I won't go into spoil it all in case you haven't seen it and you want to watch it, because you should absolutely watch it. But as I said, Meryl Streep's an absolute godsend in this movie. She can do absolutely no wrong. Her portrayal as Donna is amazing. The way she sings the different ABBA songs, she makes it her own. It makes you believe what she's singing. The songs help tell the story throughout. Obviously, the location, the Greek island, it's all very picturesque. It all very fits the scene of the movie, what it's trying to do. But I think I've gone on record to say a lot that I absolutely have a huge fancy for Amanda Seyfried, and she's amazing in this movie as well. But I think the main reason that I really enjoy this movie, and it's something that I've shared with Adam many a time. Pierce Brosnan is absolutely fantastic. He's ridiculed for his absolute shit singing, but he acts the absolute fucking shit out of SOS, and he does it with pure heart and soul, and he puts his all into it. He didn't originally want to do this movie because of the singing, just wasn't, he didn't realise that was part of it for some reason, but when he found that he had to sing, he stayed on, he did it, and by God, what a performance. And I think the main crux of what I'm trying to get is that when you're listening to ABBA, you're going to have fun, and that's exactly what this movie does. You get the happy ending at the end. You know, you've got Julie Walters in it as well. she gets her happy ending. Everyone kind of gets their happy ending, and that's exactly, I think Lewis alluded to earlier on in the episode about how there's that, with a movie musical, it's hard to have that concrete ending. You get that with this movie when they're all having their happy end at the end and they've got the credits and they just do another song to perform and they're all wearing the ABBA gear. So I think for the absolute fun nature of it, the portrayal of the ABBA soundtrack, how it carries, how it flows through the movie, how it helps tell the story, and that the songs are just instantly recognisable and you sing along to it and you want to sing along to it. Mamma Mia is the best movie musical.
Thank you for that, Jack. Anyone got any questions?
Jack, you lost me in the first 10, maybe 15 seconds where you said you didn't really care about the story. All you cared about was the music. And then the audacity of saying that Mamma Mia are the best pop group ever, ahead of the Beatles. Just what was that?
Would you say the Beatles is pop?
I would say the Beatles
it's
is
not
rock.
the Beatles.
Pop rock, maybe.
Pop
I wouldn't
rock,
go as
mate.
to pop. As just pop, I don't think there's a greater band than ABBA.
Mate, One Direction are better than ABBA.
Bee Gees.
Whoa, no. ABBA's great.
Try and get us
ABBA-
cancelled.
I'm not saying that ABBA aren't good.
But
that
the
sounds like you are.
The best pop group of all time is a strong statement.
Well, they've got the staying power. Whether ABBA is the greatest pop group of all time is another story. What I want to ask Jack is, I have two questions for Jack. One, how can you say Mamma Mia is the best musical of all time when they can't fucking sing in it? It's not just Pierce Brosnan. They're bloody awful in this film. Like, it's a musical, all right? Yeah, it's a film, but if it's a musical, they've got to get round to the singing at some point. And when they do, oh my days, it's fucking terrible. This is the worst case of miscast I've ever seen. If you need someone for a musical, they need to sing. Just that's it. Point blank. If I went to go and watch a musical in the West End, and they couldn't sing in it, but they look like they're having fun, I don't fucking care. I want my money back, right? That is just a blatant, terrible miscast, all right? And my second question.
Stuart. Oh, I knew.
I was going to say, my second question, Jack, is there's an ABBA 3, okay? So we've got Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. But what's the third movie going to be called, Jack? That's the most important question I've got for you.
Right. The first question, I'll answer with what we were kind of saying earlier on about like Les Mis and Sweeney Todd. Is how you've got roles that are there to not, like with Sacha Baron Cohen and Hela Bonham Carter, that like the roles they play, they make that because they're not truly good at singing, they make it better. I would say that's the case in this, where like Pierce Brosnan and the rest of them. Obviously, I think Meryl Streep is a good singer. I think that she is very good. Same with Amanda Seyfried. Obviously, Colin Firth isn't the best, but the way that he's singing and doing what he's doing, like it fits. I think it fits good for it. You know what I mean? Like the way they do it, like we've said with the other films about how it's not necessarily you have to cast the best musically talented. It's just how the best fit, and I do believe that the folk that they cast in this is the best fit. I absolutely agree with you that Pierce Brosnan is shit, but by God, can you enjoy it the way he does it? You can rip the piss out and you just enjoy what he does. And for this third Mamma Mia movie, I don't know. I don't have any whimsical answer for you here, Stuart. I'm sorry.
I would have accepted Mamma Mia 3. Thank you for the music, but thank you for answering my question, Jack. I don't agree with your answer. I don't accept your answer, but thank you for answering it.
Is the third one going to be a prequel?
Well, the second one was a bit of a prequel and a follow-on from the first movie at the same time, so I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But will I watch it? Yes, of course I will.
Lewis, do you have any questions for Jack?
No, I just kind of feel bad for the guy because he just got fucking destroyed for like 5 minutes and he's just talking about how much he loves ABBA in this film and he's just like, everybody's like, fuck him. So, no, I don't have anything to add. I mean, Mamma Mia is a surface level kind of enjoyment thing. It's just an excuse to play ABBA songs for a couple hours. Obviously, I think the singing kind of got ripped apart from release, but I'm with Jack in that I like to watch these films for the sort of just the happy enjoyment of them. I don't see music or musical films as these kind of like dark and gritty and hard storytelling. While there is that element of it, it's not why I go to watch it. So I appreciate his sentiment with the thing. I just kind of feel bad for the guy getting ripped apart for 5 minutes.
I was expecting it though, with the way that Rhys and Stewart have taken this with the movies that they've picked. So it's like I understand why they've went for why they've said what they've said. It's just that I'm basing off of why I enjoy the genre. So it's fair enough. That's why it's what we enjoy from, isn't it? So there's so many different takes in this genre to enjoy it. So
Yeah, and Jack, I fully expect to get the same treatment in the subsequent 2 minutes.
Right, and with that, Lewis, take us away.
Right then. So, in hindsight, I probably would have picked a different film, but I've decided to go with this one. So, when I think of music movies, a few come to mind, but none come close for me for being the ultimate one, and that is Grease. Grease for me.
No, I'm kidding.
Grease for me stands head and shoulders over the other films for a few reasons. But like Jack said, and I've said previously, like I enjoy these films for the kind of just having a bit of a fun with music and film. So yeah, here's my reasons. First and foremost, the music is instantly recognizable and is renowned and revered. Obviously, a key component of a music movie is to get the music itself to be a strong point. The film is timeless. It's been enjoyed for years and years after it's released, and only bolsters the case for Grease. The fact that it's had this like timeless staying power. Another point is the performance as well. The actors, both like musically and just acting, is phenomenal. Especially Olivia Newton-John, who I think needs to get a special recognition for this film. She won countless awards for not just her acting but also the music. And I think she actually was nominated for an Oscar. I don't think she won it, but she won a shit ton of awards and was nominated for Oscars for this. Secondly, the story just works for almost everybody. Like, not everybody went to American high school in the 50s, but that sort of like summer love and fling going back to school the final year, not really sure what's going to happen, your future, you just kind of want to enjoy your time with your friends and so on. Everybody has a way to relate to that, and I think that's one good thing about the film is that you can kind of see yourself in it to a degree. I might be stretching that one there, but there's definitely an element of enjoyable there. And it's just historically iconic. You can't get past that. Everybody has some sort of favorite thing from the film, be it a song, a piece of screenwriting, whatever. It covers it all from the music, acting, story, comedy, action. I mean, even the car race in it, for God's sake. And the finale is an absolute peak in cinema crescendos. The chemistry between the cast is absolutely apparent. Olivia Newton-John was just phenomenal in the finale, and I can't praise her enough in this film. It's ridiculous. And at the time, the film really pushed boundaries in terms of censorship, both from a script and writing point of view, but also a costume design and presentation of people, especially in the 70s. So it could be argued that at some point it kind of pushed the limits of freedom and expression and acceptability in the elements of human experience. Yes, sexuality is one method, but it's also, the freedom of words and use and the conveying of, characters and affections and things like this. And I want to throw in this little caveat because I don't think I realized this when I was doing the research for this. Originally, the scene, or song rather, Beauty School Dropout, was originally supposed to be Elvis, but unfortunately at the time, he had time restraints and couldn't make it, and it was subsequently given to Frankie Avalon, who did it. He was still wanted and asked to be in the film, but unfortunately, this was the time where Elvis died during filming, so he couldn't make it. And quite a few times throughout the film, they make homage and pay tribute to Elvis, obviously quite a key figure during the 70s. I think that's just kind of nice. So I love Grease for what it is, and it has the acting, the music, the historical significance, the sustained relevance, the awards, everything. And for me, this is the best there is. So my pitch for the best music movie is Grease.
Lewis, I have a mic on you, but you said that you said Elvis died, so he couldn't make it. Oh, I started busting out laughing. Well, that is an absolute line and a half. In terms of the pitch, I forgot about Grease. It's an absolute banger. I'm sure there's a video of me somewhere on stage as I can't remember what the girl and it's called. We did in our sixth year of high school, we did like an hour like sports leaders group or whatever it was called. We always have in school like a dance. I don't know. It's not really a competition. It's just like a thing where everyone dances. I don't know. They do like choreographed dances, and we did Grease, but the boys were the girls and the girls were the boys, and I was the like main girl in it, and we all did our dance. So, you know, Grease has a special place in my heart for that horrible memory. So, you know, it's good pick.
But it's fun. It's a fun movie, and that's what I said. Everybody has some sort of fondness for it, be it Rhys's traumatic cross-dressing experience that clearly awoken something in him, or just the music or something.
I completely forgot about. Yeah, sorry, Adam. I completely forgot about Grease as well. Like, I've only seen it the once, and I actually only saw it a couple of years ago. But I knew about the music. The music was obviously it's world known. Grease Lightning and You're the One That I Want and everything like that. It's the staying power of the music alone is fantastic. It was a good pitch by Lewis. Adam and the audience will know I don't ask questions. I just rant about the films. Why is everyone so old in this film?
Yeah,
like,
that's actually...
One of them looks like he's in the 50s. He's like literally balding, and he's
here's a trivia question. What do you think is the oldest age of the actor or actresses in the film? Because I actually know that.
Man, it's got to be in the 40s. He has got to be 40.
No, it's 36. I think there's somebody that's 50.
That's what I said, 36.
Yeah, and then I think there's like a side character from that was appears like 50. He was supposed to be some school kid, but the youngest age for the entire film, like people were 19. The youngest actor in it was 19. Even then, that's not a senior in high school in the States. Like,
who is 19 in this film? I honestly believe like the 19-year-old must be one of the teachers or something like that, because the students look so much older than the teachers. I couldn't believe it.
Olivia Newton-John actually was not going to do the film because she didn't think it would be believable until she did a screen test, and she went, it'll do.
I think the whole director was like, it'll do. Like, this is what we've got. It's like you said, it's a bit of fun. It's a weird film, but yeah, as a musical, it's a bit of fun. Like, I've got nothing against people that enjoy Mamma Mia or anything like that. Mamma Mia is just not for me. I can have more enjoyment watching Grease than Mamma Mia. Sorry, Jack.
All right. Okay. It's yeah. That's just a like personal opinion, isn't it? It's like I think the way that me and Lewis have looked at it the same way, with like you just enjoy it for the songs and what it is, and that's why you enjoy Grease more, I guess. So like, it's fair enough. As I said, I'm not trying to defend it in any way. It's just it's the broad topic and the nature of looking about it. It's interesting, the kind of the ways that we've all went around trying to defend our pick.
I think our picks definitely relate to kind of what we experience or want from a genre or a film, and like this is obviously why I went for a film. But just like a sidebar, my other option that I was thinking about for taking this was Les Mis, but when I thought about it, is like despite that movie being critically acclaimed, multiple awards, fantastic acting, and kind of checking all the boxes for like what you'd want from a fantastic movie, Grease for me just captures that essence of enjoyment better. Because Les Mis is a depressing ass film, but there's so much good in it. There's just so phenomenal in that film. But Grease, like as Jack likes Mamma Mia, like it just captures that sort of essence of fun and enjoyment and just having a laugh while watching a film and just getting along.
I think as a podcast we kind of overlook older movies a lot. When we did the rom-coms last week, we never mentioned like When Harry Met Sally, which came out in '89, or
I did
Philadelphia Story, which well, you didn't pitch it, or like the
Philadelphia
Story,
but I did say,
which came in 1940.
Yeah.
We kind of overlook that, and we always pitch kind of more modern stuff. We have the audacity to say it's the best of all time. So to actually be pitching the best musical of all time to be a musical from 1978, I think it was, kind of gives us some credibility, or certainly Lewis.
We don't know what we're talking about. We're literally a group of guys who pull from our own experiences for these kind of like defend your favorite. Like that's what it is. It's our favorite. We're by no means an authority. Like it's just opinions. Like I'm totally my opinion on Mamma Mia carries shit. All right, it's as worthless. It's as worthless as his Pierce Brosnan singing voice in the real life. But you know, that's just the way it happens. I don't think Jack's wrong or like anything like that for picking Mamma Mia. He's perfectly within his right. I think in the UK, like before Adam, obviously we're taking up his time in the ending, getting us all out the door. But I feel like the UK musicals are this weird phenomenon. The last musical I saw in the cinema was The Great Showman, and went to see it with my girlfriend, and we were in our mid-20s at the time. We were the youngest people there, and the cinema was packed. I haven't seen the cinema that packed like since Endgame. Like that, it was literally not an empty seat in the house, and this was like a week or so into its release. The UK is weird about musicals, and our choices are our choices. They're just as weird as our affiliation with them.
Wow. Well, there goes my ending monologue. Right. Well, with that, can I get everyone's votes, please? Please send me a message with your
votes. You guys not
votes.
put your votes in yet? Sorry, Adam. I'm angry for you, mate.
It's okay. It's okay. And while we're thinking about that, I will say what my favourite musical would be. I probably would have said... to be honest, I probably would have said A Star Is Born, or I didn't want to count it, but the Hamilton live stage musical I thought was amazing. But anyway, that's also got a lot of historical value, you know, teaching kids lessons. And we're just waiting on the last.
Like Macbeth? That's got
It's
some
not
songs,
musical.
you know, some Shakespearean stuff. That would be good. Like I'm talking about more like the actual theatre versions.
Theatre stuff. Yeah, we all love a bit of theatre. Absolutely.
You ever been to the theatre, Adam?
I've been at the theatre. I have been twice.
Here's the question: have you guys ever acted before, like an actual play or stage performance?
Well, guys,
Not
there is a movie. I'm not going to tell you where it is. You have to find it yourself. Of me as the protagonist in a short film in a different language. There you go. That's all I'll say in that topic. No, Adam, tell us who won.
If you're looking it up, listeners, the language will be Gaelic.
It's pronounced Gaelic.
There you go. Right.
I put your name into YouTube, Rhys, and all I got was a Soccer 2020 recruit video.
I'm also a professional soccer player.
Right.
The more you know.
Okay. And the votes are in. In last place with 0 votes, Stuart and Jack. And
we did it, Jack.
In second place with 1 vote is Rhys with Frozen, which means the winner is Lewis the Grease with 3 votes.
I'm actually really surprised with that.
Congratulations, you are the big champion this week.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised with that, but like I think, you know, as far as these kind of movie genres go, and what we definitely do, I think we kind of tend to forget about the enjoyment aspect of it, and Grease just captures that.
I think the good thing was that a lot of us forgot that Grease was a film when thinking about this.
The surprise factor. What to his favour?
See, I was trying to think like, you know, Grease, and then I thought about like Footloose and like Dirty Dancing and that. I think, you know, clearly my train of thought went at a completely different angle for this.
Bodyguard, that created one of the greatest songs of all time. I mean, Whitney Houston, what a woman.
Didn't Dolly Parton write that?
Dolly Parton wrote
Well,
that.
that's a cover, yeah.
No.
Well, sorry. Whitney Houston's is a cover. is what I'm saying before anyone gets on it with it.
Right, brilliant. Well, guys, I think that's all we got time for. And I just want to say a big thank you to all of our panel. And thanks to Lewis for being our Big Picture champion this week. Thanks to you guys for listening. And goodbye.